Couldn't couldn't agree more, Cam. It does hurt. It was look. You all know that when I was talking with the last video and basically talking about like, does anybody really care about the X's and O's? Does that really matter? I tell you what, it really seemed like the X's and O's didn't matter in that game because I never thought, I had it as a greater than zero, much greater than 0% chance that we could lose this game. I thought never even entered my mind that we could get absolutely embarrassed like we did on our um it's not our season finale, but our home season finale because we're going to finish on the road next week in Tampa Bay. And the vibe was all wrong in that building from the beginning because that is the weakest who dat chant that I've ever witnessed to open the game. And it only real excitement was the trick play touchdown to Foster Moreau. But even when the rare occasions when they were doing something good, the crowd was into it a little bit, but it's almost like nobody was buying. And it seemed like the team itself, in a weird sort of way, really wasn't buying into it. I don't want to say like they were laying down, and I don't even want to say they weren't prepared because the first half there were some, if not for some just stupid things that we did, you know, there was a chance we could have held the lead going into halftime. But we shot ourselves in the foot. We both sides of the ball. The defense was just atrocious all day long. There's no getting around that. They were horrible from the first drive that Raiders had the ball till the end of the game. But that was an embarrassment. Only good takeaways. Something I mentioned. It was a win-win the way things fell out, and we'll talk about that a little later. But we probably be pretty much locking down that no worse than 10th draft situation. But more on that later, and we'll talk about that later and in depth, I'm sure, especially when we get to questions. Um, just some takeaways and season observations. Northern and I kind of had this conversation in the comments out on the last video, but basically we were on after the Green Bay game. Rizzy was going prior into that game. We were going, I don't think anybody was really 100% sold, but hey, they got to go on the road and play a playoff team. And after that game, I think we were all just kind of hitting the pause button, right? Going, I don't know about this. This game, I think, sealed his fate. He may be a head coach someday, but I don't think it's anytime soon. I don't think it's here. What that means, I don't know, but there it is. I started having this feeling at various points during the year when the defense just started hurtling towards the bottom end of the NFL. And I kept thinking, with everything else going on tied into it that we're going to talk about this offseason, going, well, maybe we can patch it together. Maybe we can hold on. Maybe we no, there's no maybes. There's no tweaks. There's no patching, whatever. If Green Bay didn't make up my mind today, absolutely, especially watching it with my own eyes, confirmed, you got to completely overhaul the defense. 100% completely overhaul it. I don't know if you can do it in 2025 alone, but I would give it a fair shot. But by 2026, you need a better scheme. You need better players. You need younger players. You need more athletic players. You need players that can freaking tackle. You need some defensive backs that I don't care how they cover. That don't bite on double moves and then have to play catch up and don't have the ball skills to turn around and break up a ball. I just saw that all getting exploited by a team whose roster, in theory, shouldn't have been any better than yours. But on the offensive side, we knew what Bowers was going to do. And actually, eh, I was expecting bigger numbers from him, but I wasn't expecting the huge numbers from their other role players who just lit us up all day long. So I, I love Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. I love Cam Jordan. I don't think you can bring him back. I don't know how that's going to work in the offseason, but I, they still want to play. No hard feelings, just the way it is. We've got to do what we got to do. You guys will have to do what you have to do. But if you still want to play, it can't be here. And I'm on the fence with Demario Davis as much as I love him, and I really want him to retire as a Saint. Who knows what his future plans are? But I, I never thought I'd say this, but today there was a couple of times when he was just exposed by players that even last year and 2 years ago never could have broken him down like he got broken down on some of those plays. I don't know what that's going to look like, but you really have 3 declining players there that I, there's no way all 3 of them can come back for sure. I'm pretty sure at least 2 got to have to go for not only the value they're bringing on the field, but also what's entailed in their contract, because you've got to fix the salary cap thing too. And that's 3 players that are heavily tied into it. You're gonna have to reevaluate your edge rushers, how you want to do it, what you want. Game after game, we're in this philosophy where we're sending edge guys out there. We want them to play the run and the pass. And look, you need to find at least one person on the edge that's just going to go terrorize a quarterback, plain and simple. You might have to give up a little bit in the run, but you don't have to play him all the time in the heavy rotation that we're playing guy. Same thing on the interior. You've got to completely rebuild your interior. And mostly it's on Brazil doesn't give you enough in the running game. That was evident today. And nobody else really does either, but at least he gives you a pass rush from the interior. But the rest of them, nah. You got to go find guys that can play in there, clog things up, and stop the run. Safety help. I'll just leave it at that. You saw the game today, and what we've been seeing from this. Harris is a probably the solid, reliable one back there. He doesn't seem to miss tackles. He seems to be in the area, but let's be honest, none of them make any real plays. I can't even tell you the last time we had a turnover. It seems like it's been a month or longer. And again today, they had guys out there at receiver or shaking loose that were just moving way faster than our safeties could keep up with. And the one chance you had to get over turnover today, Honey Badger can't get over there fast enough and can't hang on the ball and make a play. You need to do something about the outside corner position. I don't quite know what that's going to look like because that gets real complicated real quick. Love Kool-Aid. Think he's only going to get better. He's the one guy that actually covered somebody and made a play on the ball today and broke up a pass legitimately. Taylor, I love Taylor on the inside early in the year. He was just, but when Adebo went down, you moved him outside. Ugo Amadi gives you limited time, but in a full-time role, like they've been trying to use him. Howden, same thing. Man, today those guys were just getting picked on and exposed left and right. The whole thing just that's a hard reset right there on the defense, and you need to get cracking on that as soon as possible in 2025. Offensive line, you've got to beef that thing up. The interior, we know when McCoy's not in there, it's weak, and that brings up the fact you've got to figure out how you're going to beat that up. I don't know if you can really do much in the interior in the draft. It seems like that's a no bueno. Maybe a couple of guys will kind of show up on a second day possibility, and that would help, I think. But And you got to kind of figure out what you're doing at tackles, because we know McCoy's our best offensive lineman. That's and we've got to figure out a way to keep him healthy and keep him on the field. But you've got to anchor some portions of your offensive line. And our tackles have been serviceable, both of them. And you got the rookie that you flipped over. You've trying to reclaim Penning. At times they've looked, I mean, they're all over the place in the 16 games we played so far, where they've had really good games. They've had kind of really bad games. Not a whole lot of both, but everything else has just been kind of in the middle. They can be kind of good. They can be kind of bad. They can be kind of average. They don't, you go through stretches where they're not killing you, but I don't know if they're really helping you run the ball or move the ball or whatever. This is a draft. If you want to talk about that, there's a lot of top talent tackles. And that may be the way you got to go to fix that. Figure out what you're going to do with Penning. Figure out who's going to play what side. I don't know, but you've got a good anchor in McCoy, but you've got to lock down at least one, if not two of those other. There's a lot of NFL teams do that. They've got three really good offensive linemen and two guys they go, look, just don't kill us. But you've got to be better than what you're seeing. And part of that is some of these guys that are we've been starting and playing a lot. I'm okay with them being a depth piece, even if it's Penning. If you decide to go tackle and try to solve those two issues, just going, hey, you're the swing lineman. I think you'd be okay in that spot. But when you're rolling out today, when you're in the position you're in, Shane Lemieux, look, he may be a great guy, but he doesn't help you at all. And but the one that killed me is Oliuta coming trotting out to play left guard, going, oh my God. Before the game even started, I'm like, we've got issues. And we definitely had issues. And that's just a starter. It goes much deeper than that. This is no longer a tweak or fix it or reset or anything. If the message hasn't been sent yet to the organization, because I think everybody knows it's a rebuild. It's a complete do-over. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know looking at the roster. I think if I remember right, we're going to have 49 roster players come the beginning of 2015 because we're losing a lot of guys in free agencies that have no contract at all. And you're still going to be estimated 63 million over the cap at that point. So I don't know how that's going to look, how you're going to start filling in bodies outside of the draft, because I don't know how you're going to get to the point where you're going to really sign free agents, not at least early in the period. But you got to start to focus on the rebuild and go, we need guys in here that can play. With this, backups or guys that maybe even shouldn't be in the NFL are seeing way too much time this year. I know injuries were part of it, a big part of it. But even when you were getting some of those guys back healthy, you kind of going, since 2019 to now, 5 years, 6 years, just the way the roster has fallen off. There are major issues there. And if you're looking at the offseason, I got to back up in one thing or actually two things I need to talk about, because we were kind of having this conversation today in the stands at various points of the game, because there wasn't much to talk about what was going on the field at that point. But the Saints, Chiefs, Chargers, Eagles, Packers, and it doesn't matter whether it's the Buck or the Falcons, one of them's winning the division, but that's all playoff teams we've played this year. Broncos, right now, if they win, I think the thing is they get the last spot in the AFC, so you add another playoff team. In the NFC side, the Rams and the Commanders both still have a shot. And you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 definite playoff teams as of right now, possibly 7, 8, or 9 that were on our schedule. Every one of those games, obviously we lost, except we did beat Atlanta, which is they keep throwing the stat out, and I got to clarify this, that we have a win against the team with a winning record this year. Atlanta's 8-7 right now. We did beat them the last time we played them, so I don't know how they're going to finish tonight against Washington, but just saying. But you have a a pretty good strength of schedule. And I didn't realize that going in until we were starting to talk about it. It's like, wait a minute. A lot of the teams making the playoffs came in and rolled us. And a couple we took to the wire, like in Washington and the Rams, if they make it. But the legit playoff teams, Tampa gave us a beat down. Atlanta beat us once. We beat them the second time. But Kansas City, Denver, if they make it, Chargers, Packers, they just flat rolled us. Week in and week out, we kept getting a good look at what a true playoff team or playoff caliber team, even if somebody like Denver ends up not making it, can be in the NFL. If you can't use that by comparison, and then you roll in at a team that was 2 games behind you in wins in the win column, and they beat you like they beat today, how far you have to go to fix all this. At this point, I don't even know then that you're just not paying attention, or you just living in a dream world, just going. We have been these last 2 games especially have totally exposed us some opposite end of the spectrums of where we're sitting from talent to coaching to everything else compared to the rest of the league on the playoff side, like we were just talking about, but also the teams that are in the same boat as us, like the Raiders, can come in to our home field, beat us down by two scores, by 15. And let me tell you, that game could have been worse. Probably should have been. So that's my just my take. It's just worse than even I thought it was. And I knew it was getting bad, and I knew we were on the wrong side of a lot. But wow. Today was a real eye-opening experience sitting in the dome and watching it. Before we start, real quick, let me plug myself. Right now, from now until next Sunday, the midnight on the January 5th, got a discount that I'm calling "Thank You Everyone for 2024" discount at the merch shop. Buy one item, get the second item 25% off. So, got the link there. Go click on it. It's also I'll have it in the comments later after we log off. Go ahead and check it out. Same spot as always. We're on the 40, right behind the visitors bench, but row 11, I believe. Mahomes, Reed. What is you giving me the great quarterback coaching combinations? They're all playoff teams, I believe, right now. That's where you're going with that. Obviously, you were doing some. Well, you couldn't have been typing before the game, but I think that's more inactives than you can have when you're active. I don't think your math works out there of throwing all those names out. Did you watch the game? They ran for 150. They were the worst rushing team in the league, less than 80 a game, and they came in and doubled that against our bottom 5 rushing that normally gives up 135. They ran for 150. You get run over like that, how are you supposed to get pressure on a quarterback? You can't get them in enough pressure type situations. Second part of that is, let me tell you, that's what I'm saying. This game could have been a lot worse if, yeah, they had a legit and starting NFL quarterback. We're going to get shredded because I promise you, nobody was covered. We weren't covering anybody that whole game. If he held the ball at all, it was a mistake. And he was getting some easy pigeon catches and throws. Some of his receivers, I know he had a couple drops. He suffered the balls that should have been caught. So our defense just got manhandled. The first third down, Jesus, we couldn't even get off the field on third down, regardless of what the down and distance was. But one of them was very early in that first drive. They ran the draw play on third and long when we were trying to send pressure. and ran for a first down. I think that cooked our goose right then and there. Um, our coordinator and our defense staff had zero answer for anything that offense was trying to do to us. And I think maybe they were trying to focus on Brock Bowers. Um, I don't know. I can't tell you. I can tell you some of the completions he got with Yak after the catch was, again, being exposed our unathletic, slow, and older defense of as compared to their defense when we were trying to do the same thing. Balls coming in against us and our defense, they're letting the guy catch it and still at best getting 2 or 3 yards. And that's if we get a tackle. We miss a tackle, they get more than that. Saw too much of that. And the flip side of that, we get a guy starting to break open, the ball's coming in, and they're breaking on balls. They picked one, they knocked some down, they tackled guys as soon as breaking up passes. That wasn't a good thing we did on defense. So I mean, expecting sacks or pressures or whatever when we were shitty everywhere else, that's just a non-starter there. Um, yes, if this was fantasy football, you can just lop 14 players off your roster and I don't know, I guess redraft it or whatever. But it ain't going to be that easy. There's going to be a lot of work. I don't even care which 14 you're talking about because remember, like I just said, I think our rostered players under contract's 49. Well, you have to have 53. So right now you're 63 million over and still have to add 4 players because if you're not at 53, both the NFL and the NFLPA is going to get really pissed. I don't even think they would allow you to do that. Then as you drop those players that you're talking about, I guarantee you some of them, the drop is going to increase that 63 million and make it more. Plus, you're adding 14 more players to try to get to the 53 while you're over the cap numbers flying up. Math just ain't going to work like you think it will, Northern. I wish it would because it would be a simple fix, but it ain't. Solid and stable ownership only works if your owner is actually doing something. Look, there's enough talking about the fact that the 2 teams she owns right now has a combined 10 wins. Does the Saints have 5? The Pelicans have 5. Obviously, I know you're not New Orleans because around here people are getting fed up and they don't even know if somebody even suggested I saw earlier going whatever they're going to do in the offseason, she should actually be at the press conference and have to speak because the comment was, does she even care? We were having the conversation in the dome today. I hope she was there and noticing again the who dat chant was almost non-existent before the game. There was no real buzz in the crowd. The Raiders fans were way louder than we were, and in Half-Field Dome, we still had them outnumbered. There's a lot of apathy going around New Orleans, and it's getting worse. If you solid and stable, either she gets involved more or she, like some owners do, that's my person right there. Get him involved and make the changes that we need made. I don't think any NFL head coach right now, and especially Jets, Bears, us, definite looking for coaches. The Raiders might be, Dallas might be, Browns might be, Jacksonville, Taylor's on thin ice, Raiders. I don't know if Pierce is coming back. Adding 6 teams in there. I guarantee you there are coaches that are looking at some of those other teams if those jobs open up going, I'd much rather be there than in New Orleans with the mess they got on their hands. And not sure anybody in the front office or ownership's really serious about trying to fix any of the problems that are there. Because if you don't fix the problems that are there, and we have plenty of them, it's going to keep getting worse. It's not an excuse. It's a reality, Northern. If you don't understand that, then I can't help you. The cap is what it is. You can't ignore it. You can't work around it. If you're not under 63 million, if you don't figure that part out, you can't add any more players to your roster, even though the NFL is going to want you to. They're going to find you and they're going to take draft picks. So our number 10 overall pick goes away because of we couldn't fix our cap issues. Well, Northern, you're smarter than that. Come on. I think you're trolling making a comment like that. It's beneath you. We do need everything. Hey, Big V, we do need everything. And while in the last video, I kind of threw that the big board what PFF is looking at. And again, I think it's going to change once they get further in the pre-draft process. And look, Sanders and Hart, they're not sold on, but I think even they would acknowledge they're likely to get drafted in the top 10 because they're two best quarterbacks, and there's a couple teams up there desperate. So I do like our position in the fact that there's a couple guys in there that I don't know how much they're going to change in 2025 because we have so much work to do, but you can look at them and go, and you have a real player there. As long as you don't screw them up and you develop them, you'll be fine. But which one? It's almost like best available because the guy's likely to be up there that we'll be drafting. I think if they're not going to be the best player at that position in 2025, they will be by 2026. Whether we draft a corner, I don't know if there's really going to be a receiver there if the guy from Arizona doesn't make it, and I don't think everybody really is in love with him, so I don't know if he's going to get there. But the tackles, you're going to have the Georgia safeties up there. You got a couple of corners. The guy I really like that I think is going to be around for a while and really solve some problems is the big defensive interior guy from Michigan. They got two really good ones in the draft, but the really, really, really good one that they think might be a top 10 pick. So yeah, and again, once we get into Senior Bowl and Combine and Pro Days and all that other stuff, the picture will probably clear up and we might have a little more direction about what's on the board and which one of those guys may be able to help us the most if they get to 10. Yeah, Hemisphere. It's going to require a lot of work. I mean, it's not going to be a magic quick fix. We're so far beyond that right now. And part of it is whoever comes in is I think a lot of things just have gotten spun so far out of control, as far as what needs to go on with an NFL head coach. And it's kind of one of those things that you're seeing. We have now over the last couple of years seen so much of what doesn't work. I don't know if we can define it exactly. In the case of your point, a lot of mismanagement from DA and Loomis. But can we define exactly what it was? Brother-in-law and I on the way home today, we're having a very similar conversation of, the guys who get credit for when things are good, how much of it was really them or how much was it with people who may not even be with the organization, and then vice versa. Are there some guys that are, and I say guys, but just some personnel in various spots that we let sit there too long, not doing their job or doing it very poorly. Regardless, you have now a system of I hate to put it this way, but it's kind of like you're really headed towards a system of failure instead of success. And to get in there and to change that thinking back around, to get the accountability back, to get they keep talking about trust the process. To your point, I don't even know if we have a process. And if we do, there's no way I'm trusting it at this point. Afterward, the decline that we've been watching over the last 4 years, 5 years, maybe even 6 years, if you want to be honest. So that's a lot of issues that a new head coach is going to have to deal with. And a lot like Ben Johnson threw out there a couple of weeks ago, where, he basically said, look, I'm head coach job. The only, he's basically saying that if you don't fall into these two categories, don't even bother because I'm not interested. But, you know, it's going to be teamwork between me and the GM. And when I go in for the interview and tell you all the stuff that I'm going to do, you need to point out all the errors you've made the last few years and how you're going to fix it in the front office, because that's what got you in the position where you're in, because you fired your previous head coach and you're looking to hire me. To your point, I think whoever comes in and takes that's going to have to come in with an attitude like that, going, this ain't all coaching. It's part of it, definitely, but it ain't all. It wasn't all on Rizzy and Da. Yeah, Da was once fired too. So you see, and I promise you, I can do the once fired more rehired on the second go around. There's going to be a lot more than those few names. To me, that's a non-starter one way or the other as a criteria. I need somebody who's going to come in and convince me that they're going to build, and not just, the name we're getting thrown around right now most recently is and I tend to believe this is coming from somewhere in the organization, because I think this is what they want to happen, because Mickey wants familiarity and comfort. And no, what we've been doing works. We've proven that in the past. We just need to get back to doing that. And he's living in the past. And so he's got to hire a coach that agrees with that philosophy, and not somebody who's going to want to come in and, because let me tell you something, if Ben Johnson shows up, you think he wants to keep, again, the two statements that he put out there shows we're not doing it the same old way you did it, because you suck right now, and that's why you fired your head coach and you're hiring me. I'm not even answering that one. I don't even know how to respond that he went easy on us, but yeah, whatever. He may be able to play in there. Way back in the day when Penning was on the draft board, there was a lot of people throwing that idea out anyway about him, going, he might be a better guard than tackle. I don't know. Um, but regardless, since you're going to have a hard time replacing the interior, because position to sign a big name free agent, I don't know how you do that. There's, again, like in the draft, that's one of the positions that doesn't, nobody seems to be really impressed in the interior offensive lineman coming out this year, but tackle is stacked. So, I mean, that's why I'm throwing it out there. Like, if you've got the left tackle and you say, well, okay, we can move Fuaga back to his natural right tackle, because we've got a rookie in the second year of tackles at their spots. Because I don't want to make it sound like I'm down on either Fuaga or Penning. I'm just saying I think it can be done better. You may have to figure out a way to do better and go, okay, see, you got one of the best centers in the league. You got two young tackles that can do their job. Then we'll have to try to piece it together in the two guard spots, however that's going to look. Yeah, Atlanta is a different animal with Penix in there. I managed to watch a little bit of that game early, and I think Washington is that team that um I don't think they expected this much success this fast when they started their rebuild last year. Um, so I don't know if they're a complete team because of that. Also, I know they do have some veterans. Don't get me wrong, sprinkled around on that team. But is it all kind of coming together the way they needed to, where you're going to run into some teams who are going to be able to just because we almost did it to them. Good Lord. We came within a failed 2-point conversion away from stealing a win from them. So I said earlier, I was like, when I'm comparing like Green Bay to Washington, I think like Washington's next step is to kind of move where Green Bay is now, who I know they lost today a close game to Minnesota. Don't know what happened. I didn't get a chance to watch even a single play out of it. But like Green Bay's really good and really young, but with some veterans in the right spot, and they're moving. I think Washington, I think, is moving towards that. I think Atlanta had a pretty good roster the whole time. I think their bugaboo was getting their quarterback to play well enough to actually go ahead and win games with it. Penix seems to be the guy. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Atlanta pulls a win off right here and they actually end up winning the South. Because 8-7, I think that gets them to 9-7, which is I think keeps them in a tie with Tampa Bay, if I'm right. And they have the tiebreaker on Tampa Bay. And I don't see any way in hell we're beating Tampa Bay. They have Carolina, I believe. So Atlanta could win and still hang on, win the division, especially if they bag this game. And then not only do we have at least one win over a team with a winning record, we also have a win over a playoff team for whatever all that's worth. Northern, I just don't think I've tried. Um, yes, they dealt with their cap problem, but they still took. Now Tampa Bay did it a little better because they got lucky because they were able to sign Baker Mayfield for nothing to come in and quarterbacking, who played well with what was that, Canales as his OC, who they ran a good offense. There was a lot going on there. Bowles is a good defensive guy, had the defense playing well. So they kind of came out like a bandit. Denver had roster issues. They fixed their problem by getting a coach who knows how to coach and can kind of get them through it. But they're still not all the way through it. And they also had to get somebody who was willing to trade for Russell Wilson to be able to pull it off, or basically eat the Russell Wilson. I don't even know where his contract stood, but the Saints cannot eat contracts. They can't. Um, I'm thinking at some point Jaden Hurts is going to clear concussion protocol by the time the playoffs start, but who knows? I don't know what the red problem is with Kenny Pickett, but Philly, man, some spots they're really, really good, but I don't know if they can cover anybody but not named Hurts come the playoffs, running that off, being on the field with enough offense to win. Barkley's a beast, obviously, and they have, I mean, Brown. They've got some good receivers, but come playoff time, when you start playing against some real legit playoff defenses, yeah, I don't know if you can get by with McGee or Pickett, but yeah, if you don't get Hurts back, it is what it is. Um, and I'm trying to think of McGee when he was a rookie. I remember he came out of Stanford. Is he a rookie this year or was he a rookie last year? I don't remember, but or even Pickett, because it seems like he played better than he ever did at any point in his first go around with Pittsburgh. You just get somebody in there that doesn't make mistakes and distribute the ball and be able to let Barkley be Barkley where he can't get bottled up. You might be able to pull it off because at times that defense, man, looks really, really good when they're hitting all cylinders. Philly lose and the Eagles. Sirianni? No. After the collapse of last year with that team, and a lot of that apparently fell on the shoulders. But another conversation we had today when we were talking about playoff teams that we played against, the fact their head coach kept us in the Philly game to give us a chance to win it is just reason enough to go, no. And I remember some of the Philly fans sitting around us just bitching the whole time about how much they want Sirianni fired. So there's a lot going on there that mm, I don't I don't I don't think it solves any of our real issues. And and now if they were who is it? Howie Rosenbaum, their GM. If he becomes available, I would gladly take him. God knows he screwed us a couple times in some trades. Yeah, he knows how to build a roster and keep himself out of cap trouble while he's doing it. I don't have an opinion right now because all we have is speculation right now about who's going to want to go where. Um, I would prefer to stay away from anyone who makes Mickey Loomis comfortable. Would be my first criteria. Where Mickey just is going to want to go, well, no, look, you got to trust our process. We look beyond the results and all the other bullshit that he's been throwing around for the last couple of years that mean nothing because it's a result based business. And you can go for a period of time looking beyond the results, but at some point, you have to look at the results, and the results are doing this. So I definitely want somebody who would make him uncomfortable. I would like Mickey to make that decision himself. If he wants me to get back on board that he actually has any inclination on how to fix any of this, would be don't go for the safe hire and don't go for the guy that's going to want to keep doing, hey, this is our process. This is what we've been doing for 20 plus years. We want to keep doing it. No, which is why I do like a guy like Ben Johnson, who again I don't think is going to be even remotely interested in this job one way or the other. And I want to stay away from guys who won't push back on Mickey when they need to, up to a certain point. I mean, you can only do so much, but I don't want the get along, go along guys running this team like DA was because, well, he was here back when everything was working correctly. That's what scares me about Glenn. That's always what scared me about if Rizzy would have thrown the resume up to be hired and come back. Just want to get away from that. I want to understand the game is evolving and changing. And the teams that understand that and evolve and change with it, or the organizations, not just the team itself, have the better chance to be. Once upon a time, we did that in 2005, basically, because we went something uncomfortable. We go get the hot shot offensive coordinator who did have the right plan. And that was Mickey who hired him. That's what Mickey needs to tap into and go, I need to revisit that and get the next guy that's going to be able to come in and help rebuild the organization with a process that actually works. I don't know if I buy into that at all. And actually, I'm not saying that he needs to be the first off, the GM always needs to be a strong supporter of the head coach. He's the dude that hired him, right? So would you hire somebody you're not going to be in strong support of? I mean, that right there is just a moronic statement. So there's other New Orleans shows throwing that out. I'd like to be able to call them on it and go, well, if you're the boss, are you going to hire somebody that you're not going to strongly support? It's just moronic. And if Sean and DA got what they wanted, that's still ultimately on Mickey because he is the GM and go, especially in the case of DA in the last 4 years in the tail end of Sean, that our roster deteriorated so much. And we're Sean and DA the one giving out those outrageous contracts that hamstrung you the last couple of years? Mickey, no. They may have had their hand in so and so much, but ultimately he is the guy. Organization fail, it goes beyond the head coach. And this is an organizational fail. Look at our draft picks. Look at the free agent signings we missed on. Look at the outrageous, stupid contracts of guys who are non-productive but still stuck here, and you're still paying them. I don't even know if we do analytics. I couldn't tell you. And I'm not the end all be all. That's the only thing you do, but I think it's important. There's some stuff in there you got to pay attention to. And at times, I don't even think we do that. I don't think we can evaluate talent. We haven't been doing that lately, whether you're talking about the draft or free agency. I think every now and then we find it. It's almost like we find a nugget in the rough by accident compared to what we used to be able to do. So, I'm getting sick and tired of this bullshit, Northern, about Mickey Loomis. Mickey Loomis, if let me put it this way: if I had $4 billion and could talk Ms. Gale into to giving me the team, Mickey's done. Jeff Ireland's done. That whole front office is getting. Once we do all that with the new GM, whoever that's going to be, then we're going to start talking about head coach. And this is where I get kind of aggravated with all the bullshit going on, because you want me to tell you the reality of the situation. Mickey's going to get his way. He's not going anywhere. He's going to pick a head coach that likely going to fail. And Derek Carr's coming back next year being your quarterback. In fact, I can almost tell you that I have a gut feeling that the Carr 10 million guarantee gets rolled into a signing bonus because he's still got 5 years, 3 of which are void on his contract. They'll give him another 10 million. Some of that'll probably get rolled in the signing bonus. They'll drop that 63 million over to about 31 million, and he's going to be quarterback next year. And that's going to be Mickey. So when that happens, remember, that's your boy. Well, no shit, Northern. Tell me a team who's ever had a terrible, and actually, head coach, quarterback, and strong draft classes. Kind of a no-brainer, right? Let me ask you, who's a better quarterback, Nick Foles or Lamar Jackson? Nick Foles or Josh Allen? I think Baltimore and Buffalo kind of follow that. They haven't even gotten to a Super Bowl. Foles won one, was MVP. It's not the end all be all. There's been talented teams that couldn't make it to a Super Bowl. There's been crappy head coaches that stumbled into it. I don't think they necessarily are going to be like, even Jeff freaking Fisher managed to make it to a Super Bowl. To me, what I want to see is stringing together that group of seasons where you're giving yourself a shot every year. We used to be able to do that. Now we're stringing together seasons where we really have no chance, from opening kickoff to being a playoff team and making a run at anything. So we got to solve that problem first. Then we'll worry about what it takes to win a Super Bowl. You got to make the playoffs first. 4 years in a row, we have it. Part of the problem, the problems are everywhere, Northern. I mean, I'm sorry if you can't realize how infested and rotten this organization is from the core all throughout. Then there's many fixes, because they had, in same way that Nick Foles won one, because they had stacked ass teams that any quarterback who played had. Joe Flacco too. Throw his name in there. And career wise, I don't think any of those guys have, you if you banging on Derek Carr, stack up Carr's careers against those guys, except those guys all wound up with a team that I think even you could have quarterbacked to about 8 or 9 wins a year. And once you get there, you got to play well, and all those guys did. And in the case of Flacco, the one career year he ever had happened to be on one of those really good Ravens teams. And even then, it was a what and what to win the Super Bowl against the rookie quarterback in Frisco and John Harbaugh. You tell me, Northern. You're the one making all the head coach quarterback comparisons. You know, Lamar Jackson, that's John Harbaugh. I keep calling Jim Harbaugh John. McDermott, you had that McDermott now, and that was one of the things you just be consistent in your argument, Northern. That's all I'm you're all over the place tonight. Yeah, so did I. Yeah, that's true. And you can't win your third Super Bowl till you win your second. I don't know what the point is, but there you go. And yeah, I just saw your last statement before starting to wind this down. Yeah, we could have drafted Jackson, and we didn't. If we were seriously that hot on Mahomes, like supposedly we were, we're the team that traded up way too much assets to draft Marcus Davenport in the first round. But supposedly the bullshit was, oh well, we're going to draft Mahomes at 11 in Kansas City. Why don't you trade up there and take Mahomes? The bullshit with this organization just gets worse as the years go by because things get thrown out there and none of them make any sense. So that's where we stand. I think that's easily the biggest take I can give you to take away from today. Saw a lot of bullshit today. Started hearing a lot of bullshit. And the more bullshit I hear coming from this organization, is anybody really serious about trying to fix it and get back to what we used to be? Because, man, I just seriously doubt it sometimes. I do. Especially lately, especially this year. Especially the Aaron Glenn's the front runner because look, a lot of this shit that these guys in the, as you say, the other New Orleans guys, that's coming straight from somebody in the team because they want to put it out there. It's like I didn't pull the 20 million restructure for Carr for next season out of thin air. That's one that's floating around. So you see the handwriting on the wall, but I'm just hoping somebody above that goes, no, 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 no. Hopefully they were sitting in the dome today and witnessed what I witnessed. Go on. If you're not serious about trying to fix everything, you're going to lose a fan base big time. And the thing was, I was in the Meekum years too. He, bad as it was, he still had a somewhat rabid fan base for the bullshit that was going on there. But problem is, Saints fans are smart and they know what winning football looks like. And what the organization is putting out there from top to bottom the last 3, 4, 5 years ain't it. Yep. That's it. That's all I got for tonight. We're winding up on about an hour. And I got all cranked up, so now my voice is starting to crack and break a little bit. But look, reality of the situation is it's a mess. It's going to take some real hard decisions that I just don't know if the people who are really running the show are ready to make them. We'll find out. But my suspect is that, for lack of a better phrase, I think they're looking for to take the easy way out on a lot of this stuff. I don't think they're ready to make the hard decisions. I don't know why. You're going to be 5-12 this year because I don't see any way we're beating Tampa Bay. It'd be a miracle. But I guess technically could happen because that's happened to us in our past before, where last game of the season in a meaningless game, we beat Tampa Bay and for no apparent reason other than to risk our draft spot going the other way. If they just want to keep doing the same old, and that's just the last couple of weeks, been getting the feeling when you are talking about those New Orleans guys thrown out there. Well, wants familiarity, so Glenn's the front runner. Yeah. Well, you could restructure Carr for that 20 million, cut the salary cap in half, and he's here for 20. It's not coming out of thin air, right? So how serious are you if you're the organization floating that out through those guys to get it out there? Serious problems require serious people, and I just don't know if we have them. So that's where I'm gonna leave it tonight. Thanks everybody for joining and blessing all the way through this. Very, very frustrating year, really. And just a frustrating day to day because on two teams that should have been on equal footing. If they sneak a game out against us in the dome, it would still be a lot upset. But the embarrassment that we saw, especially in the second half of today, you have to realize, no, this is far worse than anybody thought it was, and it's only going to get worse unless you do something to fix it. So I'm gonna leave you with that thought. Thank you for joining tonight. Please go ahead, hit the like button, give me the thumbs up, share, subscribe, notification so you know when we're coming next. Um, YouTube algorithm loves all that shit. Yep. Go ahead, best way to support the channel. So you go visit the merchandise shop, see if there's anything in there that you like. Would truly appreciate that also. So we're gonna this week. I have a feeling we're now in the portion of what comes next. How is it going to look? And right now, I think everything is just so far up in the air and topsy turvy. I'm not even sure. I think that's the vein we're really looking at between now and basically March when the league opens and we see exactly how we're set up, who the coaching hire is, what happened with the front office, if anything, all that stuff. That's all the speculation that we got going. I was asked a couple of times today, at the game, how you think it's going to play out a lot like, and I'm like, I don't really know because this is so much up in the air potentially. It's almost like trying to speculate who our first round draft pick is going to be, like Big V and I were talking about earlier. So I mean, it's like, I don't know, but I, I want I want to feel comfortable with the idea that no tweaks, no resets, no little adjustments. You're gonna have to you're gonna have to make some radical changes that they have to reconcile to that. I'm hoping that's the stuff I start hearing from the New Orleans guys covering the team. So leave you with that one. Thanks for joining. Probably have something drop Tuesday or Wednesday. We're gonna try to be um, live post game next Sunday because of the new year, the holiday, kind of the same thing as last week. I don't know if we're going to be able to fit a second live stream in, but pretty much by a week from today, we ought to be back on normal schedule. And if you hit the notifications, you'll know exactly when videos drop and when we're back on the live stream. So till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.